On the night in which our Lord was betrayed. On the night in which our Lord was betrayed. Every time we worship, I say the words. Every time we worship, you hear the words. And maybe over time, maybe they lose some of their impact. On the night in which our Lord was betrayed. That is this night. This is the night in the church here that we gather together. Not only together as community, but in a way we gather with Jesus. It's his last meal. He knows what's coming. He knows how the night is going to end. That everybody gathered in that room with him is going to deny him, betray him, and abandon him. He knows all of this on the night in which he was betrayed. And on that night, in the midst of that dinner with his friends, with the people he had spent 3 years with, in ministry, miracles, healings, traveling together, being together, eating together. On that night, Jesus did 2 acts. And with each of those acts, unprecedented, he also gave those gathered with him commandments, mandates. During the meal, Jesus took off his robe, he tied a towel around himself, and he washed their feet. When he's done, he puts his robe back on, and as the meal progresses, he takes bread and he takes wine and he says, "This is my body, this is my blood. Eat them and drink them, and whenever you do that, remember me." 2 acts, and with each one of them comes a mandate. Now, as Lutherans, we do that Eucharist piece pretty well. As Lutherans, our entire theology is built on the twin sacraments of word and sacrament. So whenever we gather, we expect to hear the word. Whenever we gather, we celebrate almost always the sacrament. Tomorrow night is the exception. On Good Friday, we do not celebrate the sacrament of the Eucharist. We do that one pretty well, but the foot washing, we crowd to the back of the church as if though we could get away from it, you think? Even though those disciples regularly had their feet washed, on this night, it is uncomfortable and awkward for them as well. In first century Palestine, foot washing was a regular part of life, and there was a spectrum. Feet were washed ritually before religious events. It wasn't just the Jews that did that. Muslims also do ritual washing before worship. In ancient cities like Ronda, Spain, outside of town, there are the baths. So when Muslims came into town, they would stop at the baths before they went on to the mosque. There is ritual foot washing. The disciples would have participated in that. There's also foot washing simply to clean those feet up. It's the first century. Everybody walks, they wore sandals. Depending on the time of the year, their feet were either dirty or muddy. There is foot washing that simply cleaned them up. There's also foot washing that is a matter of hospitality, welcome. So when someone comes into our home, we usually go to the door, we usually invite them in, perhaps take a coat, offer them a seat, maybe something to eat or drink. But in the first century, foot washing was part of how you welcomed someone into your home, how you showed them hospitality. Also in the spectrum, very rarely done, foot washing was used to show love and adoration. So tonight, as we think about Jesus washing the feet of his disciples, it's an interesting thing to think about which of those categories was in play, or which combination, or were they all? Ritual, cleanliness, hospitality, and love. During the meal, on the night in which our Lord was betrayed, he took his robe off, he tied a towel around himself, and he began to wash the feet of the others in the room. Now, one of the reasons it would have been so disarming for everybody in that room was because the master did not wash the others' feet. The Lord, the rabbi, was not the foot washer. The person who washed feet was the lowest slave in the house. The person who washed feet, the washer, was subjugated to the washer was subjugated to the washee by their proximity, that they were below them, that they were kneeling at their feet. And Jesus, the same Lord who is willing to leave the heavenly places to be one of us, is willing for the sake of love to be a servant to everybody who gathered in the room that night. It was an act of humility. It was also an act of inclusivity. He washed the feet of everyone in that room. He washed the feet of the betrayer, and he washed the feet of the denier, and he washed the feet of every person who would run away that night. The gift wasn't about somebody deserving to have their feet washed or earning having their feet washed. It was simply a gift of love. The act of foot washing is intimate. And maybe in 21st century life, that's the thing that is the hardest for us. It involves proximity, and it involves touch. And are my feet sweaty, and are they dirty, and have I had a pedicure recently? It involves us being up close and personal and in relationship. And as part of that intimacy, there's also the relationship it has to baptism. The waters flowing out upon us, cleansing away, forgiving the sins of the people gathered in the room that night. And this act of foot washing, as Jesus does this night, is also an act of transformation. It's very interesting because according to St. John, just 6 days prior to the Passover, Jesus had been in the house of Mary and Martha and Lazarus. They were there, they were gathered for a dinner. And that night at the dinner, Mary took out a pound of nard, and with it she washed Jesus' feet. Perhaps that event was so meaningful to Jesus 6 days prior that on this night he remembers and chooses to share that same gift with the others gathered in the room. And he does. Whether it's his idea or something he's remembering from 6 days prior, he washes their feet. But when he is done, he leaves them with the commandment, as I have washed your feet, you now are called to go and wash others. As I have served you, Jesus says, you as my followers are empowered and called and sent to serve others. Pope Francis, in his time as Pope, has upset the hierarchy in the Roman Catholic Church in many ways. But Maundy Thursday, or Holy Thursday as it is referred to in the Roman Catholic Church, really upsets the apple cart. In the years since he has been the Pope, he has washed the feet of convicts. He has washed the feet of Christians who are not Catholics. He's washed the feet of non-Christians. He's washed toddlers' feet and elders' feet. He's washed the feet of people who are gnarled by disease. And then this is the part you can take a deep breath. He's even washed women's feet. And in doing so, not only laying hands and transforming those people, sending those people out, beginning to do some transformation of the church that he represents. On this night, we remember the sort of Lord that we have. A Lord who comes out of the heavenly places, a Lord who kneels in the front of betrayers and deniers and fleers and washes their feet, and then sends them out. As we have been shown mercy, we are called to be a people of mercy. As we have been loved, we are called to be a people of love. Grace has been poured out on us that we might be a people of grace. Brothers and sisters, you have been blessed so that you might be blessings to others. So be it.